Hi everybody, welcome to J&S Farms, and today I'm continuing my series on So You Want to Homestead, and this is going to be video number 3, and it's going to be about after you've purchased your property, what to do next, and setting up your infrastructure and things that you might need for your homestead. Okay, so what we did for the first year of our living here on this property, we didn't do anything permanent. We did have our rabbits from the other property that we had. We brought them. We already had their cages. One of the cages we've added since then. And then we did get an extra shed, and we did put chickens in the first year too. But they were just free range, and we locked the coop up at night and different things like that. So the first year, I would suggest mapping out your property. And that's what I did. I don't remember how I did it, but I got an outline of our property and tried to scale where everything was that was permanent, which was just the house and the shed that was already here. And then I added from there any fences that we were going to keep. And I have several different drawings of the property that I did, and one of them was where the water runoff areas were, just kind of the natural elements of the property, which was the water runoff areas, the frost prone areas where the frost just really settles in deep and is really thick and whatnot. And in that kind of area, you really don't want to put, say, an orchard. You won't get much fruit, because that area does frost pretty good. So that would be an area you'd want to avoid for that. Same with the water runoff areas. You want to avoid putting garden spaces in there and things like that. So just kind of want to watch out for those areas. You want to find your south-facing slopes. They're going to be kind of your ideal spot for your garden. They have kind of a slight south-facing slant to them. We have the east side of our property here has a perfect south-facing slope, and it's gradually sloped, so it really is gonna, it really works out for our garden space. Identifying your native plant species and weed species around your area or your property, excuse me. Those can be kind of a soil indicator. Some of them grow exceptionally well in certain kinds of soils, so you might research that and see if, say, one plant kind of indicates your soil is a little bit acidic or alkaline, something like that. So kind of pay attention to that if you don't want to get a soil sample, which I do recommend getting. We have not done it, and I don't have an excuse as to why, but we just haven't. We've just kind of been working with what we have and going from there. So one of these days we will probably get a soil sample done in certain spots and just kind of see where we're at with that. And the soil tests you can get from your local extension agent, or if you have a university nearby. Those are great places to get some soil samples. I already touched on I think I did. Anyway, your first year you don't want to put anything in permanent. If I hadn't already said that, I have now. We did put in, like I said, the chicken house, but that could have been moved anywhere we needed it to after we set it kind of where it was. But we ended up liking where it was, so it's staying where it is now. Okay. Alright, now that you know kind of different areas, how different areas work around your property after the first year, you can start putting in your more permanent fixtures if you kind of know where you want everything and what your goals are, what you want to do with your property and things like that. So after that, you can really start to build up slowly. Now your infrastructure, when I say that, I mean housing for your animals, sheds, different outbuildings and things like that, because a house is, you know, the house you live in is going to be permanent, so you want to kind of build your property around that, and kind of where it's going to be easy access, different things like that. So you kind of want to take into consideration, you know, the distance between your house and, say, a barn you put in. If you don't want to walk that far every day to your barn, then you might want to move it closer. But if it's already there, you know, you're kind of stuck with that, and you just kind of build around it. Okay. Let me see. I lost my place. And you'll have to excuse the baby crying in the background. She's refusing to take a nap, so I'm ignoring her. Okay. Different ways to start building your infrastructure and buildings and things like that. You can buy them new, and that gets kind of expensive. But if you like things nice and pretty and you know, kind of neat and tidy and things like that, so new is the way to go with that. You can build it yourself, and you can also make things look really nice if you build them yourself. Okay, and on that note, you might want to make friends with a local handyman or carpenter in your area. They are a really great resource for materials, building materials. They can get them for you for little cost or free, for that matter. We've gotten so many things that way. We've gotten our garden shed out here. We've gotten our chicken shed. We got our lean-to. People were going to throw those away. And the lean-to is a Morton building, and it's got that really, really nice metal on it, and some guy was just going to bulldoze it in. We're like, we'll take it apart. So we took it apart and brought it to our house, and now we have a lean-to. And that is one of the only other structures besides the house and the shed that was already here that is now a permanent fixture. If we wanted to, we could move these sheds around, but it's more than likely not going to happen, because that's kind of where we want them anyway. So carpenters can get you some really good stuff pretty cheap. You can buy things used, which is what we do, and that'll help save you money, but you got you kind of got to take it how it looks, kind of thing. It may be old and worn, but it's still perfectly good and useful for what you need it for. Places to find used things, bulletin boards at feed stores and things like that are really nice. A lot of people they'll tack up a handwritten note saying, okay, I got this for sale, you want to come see it. Farm sales are great. It just depends on if somebody else wants that item more than you do. So sometimes you can get some really good deals at farm sales, and those usually are advertised in the local newspaper. Sometimes they're on Craigslist, but most of the time they're on in your local paper. Social media, and what I say by that, I mean Facebook and Craigslist, places like that. Craigslist is a really great place to find farm equipment. I don't know if I'd necessarily buy animals on there, but you can certainly get some good deals on Craigslist and Facebook. There's a lot of different little, on Facebook there's different, I guess, pages that you can subscribe to, I think, or like. I'm not sure which one that one is. That you can, people will post what they have for sale. You can trade with your neighbors, or say you have a neighbor that is getting out of farming while you're just getting into it. They can have a lot of good stuff that they were willing to sell you for, cheaper, because it is used. Or if they say, hey, if you can dig it out of the fence line, you can have it, which we've gotten a lot of great stuff like that too. Hey, just dig it out of the fence line and it's yours. Because a lot of that stuff they've just been forgotten about, and they haven't used it or touched it in years, and they could really care less if it just sat there and rot into the ground. So swap meets are a good place too. You can find a lot of great stuff at a swap meet. Alright, now, when you are putting together your infrastructure, say you have a list of projects, it helps to put those projects in priority order, because you don't want to get a project started and then start another project and start another project, and then you get so far behind and caught up on, okay, what project was I working on, which one needs to be done first, things like that. We ran into that problem. It is not fun to deal with. So we, at one point, we're just like, okay, we have to stop new projects, don't make any more projects, and finish the ones that we have going. Because you just sit there and you spin your wheels, and you don't have projects done that you needed to have done months ago, but yet and then you get farther and farther behind. So one project at a time. If something comes up that needs to jump up in the priority list, by all means, jump it up in the priority list, but finish the current project you're working on. It's really easy to get caught up in, oh, well, I'll come back to that as soon as I'm done with this, because this is, higher priority right now. Don't do that. You will get behind. And before you start building, say, an animal house, do your research on, what's going to be the easiest one for me to deal with. What's a better way for the house for this type of animal. Say with your rabbit housing, you don't want to have any exposed wood. You want to make sure that any wood that might come in contact with is covered with wire, because rabbits will chew the wood, and then you don't have a support beam holding up your wire anymore, while then rabbits could just go ahead and push on out and get out. And you don't want that to happen. So, research kind of the tips and tricks of different people that have tried different things. That's the great thing about YouTube, is you can see different people's mistakes or what they've done differently, because they've learned from that. And I also wanted to touch on that because I forgot it in the first video. I didn't write it down, and then I did forget to mention it. And it's, don't be afraid to fail when you're working on something. Because to me, failure is just another way of learning. And you might fail 4 or 5 times before you get it right, and that's okay. Failing is one of the greatest teachers, in my opinion. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't give up on something just because it's hard. That next time you do it, you might get it right. So take failure. Don't get discouraged with failure. Take it as, I learned how not to build a rabbit tractor. I learned how not to split wood, kind of thing. So kind of take it and learn from it, and don't beat yourself up because you failed. Even, 10 times. You will get it right eventually. Okay. Now, machinery. The more dual purpose something is, the better. If you can get a tractor that has a bucket on it, and then it can have lots of attachments that go with it, or that can come with it eventually, if you can't buy all the attachments to begin with, that's a great tool to have. We bought a 1972 International Harvester. It is an old tractor. It didn't have a lot of hours on it, mainly because the man who used it did not use it a lot, and it was shedded and garaged for a lot of its life. But it was used, and it does have its quirks and problems. And if you're going to buy a used piece of machinery, you need to either know how to fix it, or know someone who does, that's not going to charge you an arm and a leg to fix it. Because the tractor that we have, it did have something wrong with it. I don't know what it was. My husband is a mechanic, so our tractor was in like 500 pieces out in our yard. And I went out there and I was astounded at how far apart he had to take this thing to fix one little problem. And I think it was a gasket, but I'm not 100% certain. But it's amazing how many parts there are to some of this machinery. So basic knowledge, or have somebody that you know if you're going to be buying the older used machinery. I would definitely recommend a bucket on the tractor, a hydraulic bucket, because you can do so many things with that, and it's so useful. So, buying new, if you don't want to deal with the headaches of the used equipment, is going to be your better option if you want something that you know for 100% certain it's going to start in sub-zero temperatures. We have to plug our tractor in. If we don't, then life's going to suck, because we have to now roll this brown bale of hay, lay the electric fence down, and roll it across. It's a pain in the butt, and I don't like doing it, so we remember to plug that damn tractor in. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so new and used equipment, that's kind of your call, but just kind of take those into consideration. Now, if you don't want to buy a tractor, that's fine too. If you have a neighbor that lets you borrow it, that is great. Exchange, you can use it for like a bartering system. Say, I'll come help you do this, this, and this if I can use your tractor for this. Or take them some eggs, or take them extra things that you have that they don't, and just kind of trade the use of the tractor for that. Now, borrowing machinery, there's an etiquette that comes with it. Okay? You borrow a piece of machinery and you break it, you fix it. You do not return it broken. Now, there's only one exception to that rule, and that is if the person you're borrowing it from says, hey, this part on this machine is going out. If it breaks, it's okay. I know it's bad. Don't worry about it. That's the only exception. Because if you break it, you need to fix it. I've known a few people that have been generous enough to lend their stuff to other people, and it comes back in less than perfect condition. It comes back in a worse condition than it left in, is what I meant to say. But, or it comes back broken, and they didn't, in one instance, they didn't even tell the person that they broke it, which is very inconsiderate, and that person was really upset because it was an expensive fix, and I think that that's why they didn't tell them about it. But you really need to own up to something you break and be like, okay, tell me how much I need to, how much you need to fix it, and fix it right. Don't say, hey, oh, well, let's try and find some scrap piece of whatever and try to fix it. Don't do that. Fix it properly. Alright, now, if you borrow something, return it in a timely manner. Don't borrow something and say, okay, I'll bring it back to you whenever I'm done. And a year later you bring it back to them. Not okay. Don't do that. For one, most people are too nice to actually say, hey, you gonna bring that back? Most of them will be, will probably wait until they need to use it again before they say, hey, I gotta use that now. And I need it back. So, return it in a timely manner. It's just common courtesy. And when you borrow something, my rule of thumb is when you borrow something, you return it in the exact same shape you borrowed it in, or better. I tried to return it in better condition than I borrowed it in. Say, well, we borrowed a tiller from one of our neighbors. Yeah, it had been sitting outside. It was kind of dirty and whatnot, and when we were done with it, I cleaned it, hosed it off, made sure all the roots were dug out of it, and I returned it in better condition than I found it. So that's kind of an etiquette, kind of an unspoken etiquette that you kind of need to be aware of when you borrow machinery or tools and things. Don't send them back dirty. Clean them up. Make them look a little nicer than maybe you borrowed them. Let's see. I think that may be all I have for you today. That's kind of, I don't think I missed anything. Yeah. Okay. Just keep on and learn from your mistakes and just keep going. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so I will see you in the next video. I hope this was helpful, and you guys have a good day. Take care. Bye.